What's today's date? The 10th?
Yeah, man. All right. We are live once again. It's been relatively a long time since I've done like a proper live broadcast.
Oh, shit.
And I'm stoked to be doing this once again. And I want to thank Mr. Mike Cummings, Mike C of House of Metal. And can I say C4OC Radio? I guess.
Well, formerly of C4OC Radio. He used to do the House Metal Radio show with on C4OCRadio.net. Did that for 5 years. And in fact, give a big shout out to Denny Ray over at C4OC Radio, because he's celebrating. In fact, he just posted it today. C4OC Radio has been in existence for 7 years now. So check that shit out.
Wow.
So if there's any bands out there, you want to get your music heard on the internet, it's one of the largest internet radio stations that features a lot of unsigned bands. Send your MP3s and EPKs to C4OCRadio@gmail.com and make sure it's all labeled. And Denny Ray will get that hooked up. That's right, Denny. He's based out of Henderson, Nevada right now.
Well, dude, this is going to be a great conversation. We saw each other a couple weeks back at a show that you guys hosted, actually.
Oh, yes.
With the Mighty Heretic.
Oh,
which,
yes.
I want to thank you for bringing the hat here, so at least the audience can see that, yeah, a couple of these things were made. I knew they existed, but I never knew that, you got one, which is cool.
From our good friend Jesse Garcia. Thank you, Jesse. I think he made about 50 or 100 of these things, and I was fortunate enough to be one of those individuals to get one. And we had the band playing at a place called the Overtime Bar. I forget whatever city it was. But friggin' that was probably about 9 or 10 years back, and fortunate enough to get it at that point when we had him perform, and it was great friggin' night, and that good bonding night with Jesse, that's for sure, and a couple of the guys in the band.
Jesse is a great human being, though. That's what every time we would hang out, he's just always full of stories.
Oh, yes.
When you go into his garage, full of flyers, full of ticket stubs, it's just it's like a great time capsule that he's like accumulated over 40 plus years of just being into the music world, or the metal scene especially. So yeah, just tons of great stories though.
Oh, yes.
It just falls out of him. I don't know how he does it, or how many concerts he's been to that he still has his hearing.
Yeah, well, he sees that one little bit, whether it's a ticket stub or a flyer, and all of a sudden, bam, he's brought right back to that moment. And yeah, he remembers it inside and out, and it's great. And I'm sure there's a lot of other metalheads, around the world, especially in my age, in those mid 50s and that kind of stuff, that have great memories like that. And it's awesome.
So let me ask you this, because it's going to kind of branch off into, and again, I don't want to take up the whole conversation. We're getting, as you know, we're getting ready to unveil or premiere the Heretic documentary, Don't Turn Your Back, The Story of Heretic. And I'm generally curious, because I had to shoot the band, meaning, film them at the last gig that they performed, which happened to coexist with the show you guys promoted for them. And I guess
it was my birthday show.
Happy birthday, happy belated birthday to you. But I'm generally curious, because they didn't have a lot of live footage, and I'm just curious if you ever saw them back in the day, or do you have any stories of that particular band? Or
unfortunately not. I was living in Jersey at the time. I didn't move out here till end of 99. Let's call it 2000. And we started us, as the House Metal, between myself and my good longtime friend Eddie Iggy. We're going through a list of names at the time. It was probably about around 10 years ago or so. And like, hey, what about Heretic? So we reached out to the band, and they were kind of like almost on a hiatus, in a sense that nothing was really much happening with the band. At least that's how they made it sound. And we just happened to have a couple big shows coming up. We had a show with Malice coming on, and we knew the band Heretic, at least the name, and heard their stuff from back in the day. So like, we hit them up about doing the one show with Malice, and they were like, "Really, you want us to play?" Like, yeah. And in fact, we want to give you, if it all goes good, give your own headlining show. Possibly even 6 weeks out from that. And they were like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." So all of a sudden, that particular show with Malice that was great. That particular summer was like a big summer for the House of Metal, and bands like Heretic playing a couple times for us during that summer, Malice and some other bands we had, was really helped establish the House of Metal, at least down here in Orange County, in Southern California, getting our name out there. So Julian and every now and then mention, hey, we're very thankful to us about kind of like getting him back out there. And we never take that in any way, shape, or form. We're always thankful for that compliment, but hey, still a great band. And you saw them, just a couple weeks ago. That was the first time they had, performed, together, in a couple of years. And man, dude, it was explosive from the first freaking note. Like, everyone, we were just looking at each other like, oh man, this is going to be good. And yeah, it was tight as hell.
I'm just wondering, with a band that's as tight as they are still to this day, why there are no mentions, hardly any mentions, because they're a tremendously like underrated metal band.
Extremely.
Period, end of story. And they have so much history in other bands that I don't think people realize. Like Metal Church, right?
Oh yeah, correct.
With even they played. One thing I did learn off of this of doing the documentary, a couple tidbits here, is they played like the first or second show with Jason Newsted playing with Metallica. They were actually playing with Metal Church and Metallica. I didn't know that.
No.
So they have huge history, I guess, with Metallica's history, even just playing with them. And just every metal documentary that I would watch that was particularly catered to the LA market. So if they were talking about the 80s scene, I never heard not once the name Heretic.
And that's so unfortunate. It's so not right, for the band and pretty much for the metal world as a whole, for not knowing this band or being aware of them. Because yeah, dude, they're amazing. Just Brian, writes a good chunk of the songs. Angelo and Julian and Stu and Scott, but what they put together consistently is some great fucking heavy metal.
One thing that I took away from, again, doing this thing was just the overall tenacity of the band itself. They just kept going. They just kept putting themselves out there, kept going no matter what. And that is like a true testament to a great band in general. It doesn't matter what genre they are. When the going gets tough, they just keep on trucking along. So they are definitely a band I felt deserved to be documented. And it seems it's one of those things where, like, I knew they had a great fan base. I knew internally, when you're in it, you kind of get a little down, like, oh, nobody cares kind of thing. But I knew at the end of the day, this thing was going to put them back into the conversation, even if it was just for a second, a minute, a month, a day, whatever that was. But
get some acknowledgement.
Yes, and that's a huge reason for doing this thing, was to put them back into the conversation, even if, like I said, even if it was just for a little moment here. And dude, I want people to watch the film and get something out of it, that and learn a little bit about a band that I felt deserves recognition and just has a great story behind it.
And as you were mentioning, before we got on the air, about how much of a big fan you are of Metal Church. And I know there's a lot of big Metal Church fans out there. If you're a Metal Church fan and you're not aware of the band Heretic, you definitely should be. That is for sure. 'Cause it might be a wake up call.
Well, and every Mike Howe interview, I would, because again, I had to do research and try and find, things out about the band prior to interviewing them because I was doing the interviews. Look at me, I sound like Eddie Trunk now. I, me. Uh, but he never mentioned Heretic like once in like any of the interviews because it was only for Metal Church.
Yeah.
And it just seems kind of weird,
Yeah, it unfortunately,
And there's no shit talking. I love Mike Howe.
Yeah.
I wish he got to be a part of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I wish I got the opportunity to interview him because that would have been bitching.
Yeah, no, it would
him talk about Heretic, been bitching.
Yeah, definitely would have been
And Snare.
Definitely would have been amazing, and definitely would have been an eye opener and an ear opener for a lot of people.
And I wish David Wayne got to be a part of it.
True.
That would have been fucking amazing, dude.
It's unfortunate, those trio of people, unfortunate, unavailable.
Yeah, they're no longer with us. See, it's hard to get an interview if they're no longer with us, but it's, you do the best you can with what you got, and I think people will dig what's coming. I hope you dig it, especially just because I know you're a fan as well.
Well, I think you should take that moment right here, right now, and plug the event, the title, where it's going on.
Shameless self-promotion here.
Oh, of course.
So it's September 15th at a place called the Starlight Cinemas in Lakewood, California. I guess they just opened it up a few weeks ago. And I'm honored and privileged and just grateful for the opportunity to screen it there. And again, it's almost sold out though, is the problem.
Yeah.
It's
act fast.
I mean, it took me a little bit by surprise, which again, at the same time, it didn't, because I already knew that they do have a big fan base. They do have some rabid loyal fans. Like I can't be the only one. I've seen it, in these little pockets of the internet, but yeah, this is really showing me like, yeah, these guys meant a lot to a lot of people, especially back in the day,
Oh, true.
And not only this, so Armored Saint has a documentary. I've heard rumblings of that there might possibly be a Metal Church documentary in the works. But if that's the case, how cool is it that like Armored Saint, Heretic, and possibly Metal Church have documentaries coming out?
It is great because these are some underappreciated bands, or maybe the record companies didn't do as much of a push or promotion with these bands back in the day when they should have.
And what's crazy is now is the time you can actually like just do a documentary like by yourself, dude. It takes some time, but you don't need like millions of dollars to do this. You can literally just go out there and do it. And I just want to encourage others, if there's a band that you feel deserves it, or an artist or whatever, like I encourage everybody to go out and make your own thing, a new art form. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, is it important for you though, if you had the opportunity to do this, what band would you want to see?
Man, that's difficult. That's difficult because I have a lot of loyalty and love for everything been able to do and create out here over the past 15 years or so. But I also have a lot of love back on the East Coast, in Jersey. So like if you're mentioning like the East Coast, well, in fact, maybe I'll spit one of each. East Coast band called Hades. Hades. Singer Alan Tecchio, great guy. He's also performed in one of the most critically acclaimed albums, band called Watchtower. They were amazing. That was, if you into bands like Dream Theater, that type of thing.
Oh, they're way more chaotic than that.
Yeah. But the band Hades, real friggin' heavy. The main riff meister in that band, Dan Lorenzo, yeah, really freaking good. I shouldn't say really freaking good, really fucking amazing. But their I think it was their first album called Resisting Success was great. Why am I drawing? Don't you hate when you can see the album cover in your head, but you can't remember the actual title of the album? But check out the band called Hades. Amazing fucking band. Great people, great music, and go do your research from there and get turned on to something.
Now, how did you get hooked up with Alan and those guys?
Alan for a short time was the singer of my brother's band called Aggressor. They actually played on there used to be this thing back in the day, the US metal albums
from Shrapnel Records.
From Shrapnel Records.
That was like the first metal compilation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my brother's band was on Volume 4, which also featured like Keel was on there and some other bands, but Alan sang my brother's band for a short time. He's not singing on what you hear on the album. He became a singer after that fact. But before that, he was a band called Prophecy, Queensryche, kind of like a tribute band. Because, dude, he could sing as a teenager back in high school like it was nobody's business. It was like there was Alan and maybe one or two other people, maybe 1-2 max. But Alan was always above everybody. And he actually, for a long time, was actually a main contributor of one of the magazines on the East Coast. Why? Not the Aquarium, but there's another one that was based out of Orange County. Who's doing that for a while. In fact, I even interviewed him at part of the Bang Your Head with Mike and Ed days, went on a trip back there and that kind of stuff. But that magazine was called Stepping Out magazine, based out of Bergen County, and kind of like highlighted all the entertainment stuff that was going on, New York, New Jersey, like in that area.
What about a West Coast band now?
West Coast band, oh man. Since you already took Heretic, who's other bands like Ninth Circle. Those guys have been around for a long time. That's definitely one of them. Stonebreed could possibly be another one. It's strange. Sometimes even doing documentaries on some individuals themselves from what bands they've been in. Like you were talking about Heretic, the particular drummer their band right now, Sean Scott McCormick. Talk to him. You need to get him in here. Let him talk to you for a while. He'll blow you mind with the.
Oh yeah, I've had him on. Gosh, 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, we sat and had a great. That guy's got stories up the ass.
Yes,
that just like Jesse, they just fall out and they're never the same ones.
Correct. But but individuals like him, Eric Kluber from who's playing now in Society 1. Before that,
and Iron Knot, right?
Oh, Iron Knot was fucking amazing. Void Vader for a while, but he's another. Oh, another band's Gypsy Hawk.
Yeah, White Wizard.
Yeah, yep.
The End was like his first. He was actually the first guest I had on this.
On Poppitt's Corner.
He was the first guest. Nobody wanted to interview with me. He was like the only one.
Shit.
Yeah, he was the only one that said yes.
Eric's a great guy.
I love him. He's one of my favorite. There's only a handful of like my favorite people in this scene, and he's in that circle.
No, he's great. Big props, Eric.
I love Eric if he's watching. Now another a band that I would love to document would be Chastain. I just love them so much, dude. That's a great because they were one of the first Shrapnel bands as well. Shrapnel Records was a big deal back in the day. They were the first metal label, even though they weren't. Before Metal Blade, they were the first heavy metal label, like the US metal compilations. Then came Metal Blade.
Yeah.
So that's part of history too that I don't I would love to document that. And Led Leon has one of the greatest like voices ever, period, in my opinion, just in rock and metal ever. I don't think she gets enough credit. And then David T. Chastain, not to be confused with the other David T.
Chastain's
Chastain's
out there.
Right, got to put the T in. I always love that joke with Spinal Tap
Yeah.
with Yngwie.
Yeah.
Yngwie J. Malmsteen to differentiate himself with other Yngwie Malmsteens.
Yeah, because you just never know.
But that would be a great example, though, of a band that has a lot of history that is still going in some form or another. But I just would love to see, like, what's their history? What was, you know what I mean?
Oh, completely. I know what you mean. It's like,
because it's different to have a podcast episode. I've interviewed her as well and got some great stories. But I would love to see like photos and live shows because they don't have they're a band, again, doesn't have a lot of material out, at least out in like YouTube and things like that. I've done research and they have a couple bootlegs, which is cool. There's just not a lot of footage.
Yeah, not yet.
Does anybody have any of that stuff? That's just.
If anyone out there is listening, you have some old VHS tapes, with those big camcorder. Well, they weren't even called camcorders back in the day, but they were massive. You have one of those VHS tapes, get it to Poppitt's Corner.
Right. Again, that's another great example of a band that definitely would deserve their own documentary. I just like, dude, we're here to document things, man. We're here to, it's all art. So you got to play in a band. You got to be a documentarian. No, you don't have to do it. Be a podcast. No, you don't have to do any of that.
And next thing you know, you're a filmmaker.
It's just, it's super important. I don't think people take advantage of it while it's here. I think once it's gone, then that's when people like to take advantage of things.
Yeah. Or another band from the area, Leatherwolf.
Yeah, it's a great example.
That band still goes out and performs in different versions, and and it's just like anything for a band that's been around for 35, 40 years. It's not going to be the original lineup. There's going to be a couple of players, or maybe there might be different members of their band have their own version of said band, and those things happen.
Can I ask you from a promoter standpoint though? Does that help or hurt a show? So if you get, I'm going to use an example here. It's like the cliche example, but if you have Great White versus Jack Russell's Great White, is there a difference in attendance for just having the brand?
As a booker and promoter, it's a bigger risk. Jack Russell's Great White, due to the fact of, unfortunately, I don't know the circumstances behind anything, but he doesn't have the best attendance record. Where a lot of his shows, I shouldn't say a lot. There's been a decent amount of his shows that have had to be canceled or postponed, or the night of the show, the band shows up, but he's not there.
Now, is that due to health reasons? Because I know that's probably
it's usually that, but all of a sudden, think I want to be stuck on the wrong end of that.
Right.
It's like,
right. So no, I get that.
So that's.
Maybe it's a bad example. Okay, maybe it's like let's use an example. Maybe I don't know, LA Guns or something like that, or Queensryche. How about with Jeff Tate's Queensryche, or Jeff Tate versus Queensryche? Is there?
Yeah, it's strange. Like myself personally, now using that example, Queensryche, Jeff Tate's Queensryche. I personally would want Queensryche, not Jeff Tate's, due to the fact Queensryche will plays a lot more of the older Queensryche tracks. The singer they have, which has been Todd Latour, correct? Singing, his voice is, he's younger, his voice holds up better than Jeff Tate's, unfortunately. I don't necessarily like some of Jeff Tate's solo stuff. I don't necessarily want to see Jeff Tate playing a saxophone.
So does that hurt the brand then?
I think people want what they want. If there are going to be people that want, Jeff Tate's version of Queensryche, and others, that particular example, I don't think there is a wrong answer. The great white one, that's debatable. Definitely is. But a lot of times it has to, as you mentioned, with either going to have the front man, who's ever singing, okay, Bang Tango.
Okay.
Bang Tango pretty much has been Joe Lestay. He's the only original member. Now, he has one particular member who's been performing with him, bass player, guy named Lance Eric. He's played with Joe Lestay, Bang Tango, longer than any of the other members of even the original Bang Tango. But you get turned on from, you want to go see what you first got, how you got turned on to that band. So just say now all of a sudden, like maybe one of the guitar players from Bang Tango got a couple, some other guys, and he's starting to do his own Bang Tango thing. I don't think it's going to attract as much. It all depends who the front person is. Now you mentioned LA Guns. I rather see that. It didn't affect us. LA Guns was one of the biggest shows we had, and Tracy Guns wasn't in the band. It was he still had Phil Lewis, and Stephen Riley was playing drums at that time. That was arguably one of our biggest shows, and one of our first big shows. And yeah, it did great things for us. Now, having Tracy in the band, would it be even that much bigger? No question about it. But sometimes, it's just personal preference and who you're taking the risk on, putting your money on.
Right. Yeah. Well, and bands don't really have integrity anymore. And where I'm going with this is, I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing the farewell tour.
Oh, the never-ending farewell tours?
Yes.
Like Motley Crue, for example.
And Foreigner. I just saw one for Foreigner.
With no original member actually performing?
So, I mean, at this point, obviously, it's all about the money. I get that.
Oh, yeah.
But at some point, the fans, we're going to have to say, start saying no to things.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's been some of those members in Foreigner that have been in there for a long time, the replacement players. But if you don't have any original member left in the band, you can just say it's technically a tribute band, unless someone in that band bought the name or the rights or whatever it is.
Well, how about Skynyrd now? How about Leonard Skynyrd?
Yeah. Right now, there's no more original members, right?
Molly Hatchet.
Yeah.
Bands of that ilk.
Yeah. With Leonard, yeah.
Blackfoot.
Family member. Yeah.
I remember reading once, I guess the widow of Ronnie Van Zant owns the name. And I remember reading that Skynyrd will continue as long as there's an original member performing with them. Well, now they're all dead.
Yeah.
And they're still performing.
Maybe the paycheck is good enough.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just would be genuinely curious, when is the point as a promoter when you don't take the risk anymore for a band like that? Like, obviously you don't base it off integrity. You would base it off how much funds can I bring in, kind of thing. So
it's a risk reward.
Yeah. I mean,
unfortunately, we've gotten burnt on shows. I mean, holy shit. I mean, totally violation of the third input type of shit, where it's like, I don't even want to mention the artist, but we happen to have it was almost like 2 back-to-back weekends, and this was probably around 2018, 2019. One particular Saturday, it was fucking amazing. Packed place. one. If it wasn't our biggest night, it was definitely in our top 3. Period. Just attendance wise, it made a noticeable amount of coin, but it's still a risk, But especially when I'm the one laying out the fundage, Then it was a week or 2 later, and it was big 80s band, and they hadn't been around playing in Orange County for a while, and a good chunk of original members, 3 out of the 5, including the singer, and not even going to mention how much we paid.
Sure.
But then we started hitting up bands and this and that, and like how many tickets? Like, dude, what are you, crazy? And once we get starting to get a feedback, it was like, oh shit. So at that point, we learned, send the feeler out before you before you sign the papers.
A band that you guys particularly brought out that I was very appreciative, though, was Hellstar.
Oh yeah,
like, because they never would play here. And I mean, do you want to talk about a band that would deserve something? There's another band that would deserve a documentary. It's fucking Hellstar.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunate for us, that wasn't a good thing for us.
But I was appreciative as a fan.
Oh yeah,
I never thought I would have the opportunity to see them, dude. And I'm so glad I did, because they were fucking amazing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there were a good chunk of people that came out, and they still put on a great show. Freaking was it James, the singer? Holy shit, that boy fucking sings like it. He's great. And you get blessed at times, like, to be in the presence, or just even witness some of the shows that we've put on, and as you mentioned, Hellstar, they might not be the biggest band, but there are a lot of people that do have a great appreciation for them, like yourself. And you get to witness these things. It doesn't matter how big or how small a crowd is, unless you're up there, you're looking back on it, it's like, wow, that was really fucking amazing. Yeah,
I never thought I would get the opportunity. Yeah, dude, I was floored. Because they're a technical band, but they were, they still had the songs, but they were very technical, and they could still bring it live. Like, that's fucking hard to do. It is. It's just.
Oh yeah, and it's it just shows you how great the musicianship, how talented musicians are, and how underrated so many people in the community, people that get up on stage and just blow your mind, blow my mind, blow someone's mind. Doesn't matter if it's the whole band or just that one person that just stands out. But when you have like a band like just we were originally talking about with Heretic, and right out of the gate, it's just like a well-oiled machine that just knows how to fucking run on all cylinders, and it's just like, that's the way it should sound. I mean, every last bit of it, the thump of that bass, fucking thunder in that drums, where the guitar sounds and the vocals come across, and it's just at this level, it's like, oh wow, it's like, oh, they haven't lost a fucking thing. It's like, not at all, not one bit.
Yeah, and they're a band that plays at high energy.
Yes,
at their age, it's not an easy thing to do.
No, but yeah, you're under the lights, you're breaking a sweat, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like they're breaking a sweat, because it's just the talent level, and they've been doing it for so long, and you get that chemistry. I'm sure you've had certain band members that it's just like, wow, this is just fucking, this is what it's supposed to be like, supposed to feel like, and sound. You just have that vibe, how it all gels, and then all of a sudden you get to put that on display.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially, again, a band at that level, it's incredibly important to support that kind of stuff too, to make sure.
True.
Because then promoters such as yourself can continually book those bands for people to because I think it's super important for them to have the opportunity to play, again and again and again. And it's always, I'm always curious though with being a promoter, because you do like a couple clubs, and I'm sure you don't book. You have probably what are called radius clauses. Band can't play.
Yeah,
three-
pretty much. But it all depends. Who it is. Yeah.
right. But I'm saying you would never book Heretic at like stages, and then like 2 weeks later, I don't know,
Like somewhere else in Orange County, like just say like Tiki
the
Bar
Doll
or
Hut.
what? Yeah, no, not something like that. I mean, if anything, usually try to keep it 4 to 6 weeks.
100 miles or something.
Yeah, pretty much like 50. Because once you get 100, like if you're going past, Hollywood, and at that point, I mean, shit, we've done 80s hair band Hurricane. Remember those guys?
With Kelly Hansen of
Foreigner. But still has Sarzo and Cavazo in there, and there was a venue in Chino. We had, bottom line, we had them perform in Chino on a Friday night, and then at Malone's or Stages now on that Saturday night, and far enough away, figure it's another county, and sometimes people get to the orange, to the orange curtain, bottom line, and it's like, oh, we can't go there, it's like.
What does it affect attendance wise though, even if it's only one county over? I'm curious as a fan. I have no idea. I don't book bands, so
yeah,
just from your expertise,
it hasn't affected us yet.
Good.
I mean, could it happen? But got to put every case into its own. But yeah, normally not that big of a deal.
As somebody that's been in this scene a long time, how would you like to see this community be an actual community? Because it's I call it a cult. I call it like you have to have the same ideas as me, as all of us to be included, and that's not really the case. It's a community is built upon different ideas and different just different kinds of styles, and it seems like it's always like this band versus this band, or this scene versus this scene. And I was just generally curious, as somebody that's been in it a long time, how would you like to see, what would you like to see be done to bring us closer and become a community finally?
It's with what you're saying there is I wouldn't. Well, if it is a cult, it's definitely fucking metal. Okay. But aside from that, you have your generation gaps, and okay, are my roots of hard rock and heavy metal bass and, stuff, 70s, 80s. Yes. Grew up on that stuff. Even into, the early 90s, which I know people call it grunge, the death of them all, but sorry, I'll take Alice in Chains to the grave with me any fucking day.
Well, they always use grunge as the excuse.
Yeah.
We know why it was killed, and
But aside from that, I think it just, once it gets into like the sub genres of it, and I think just from what I've been viewing, older generations like myself, okay, pretty much, especially in Orange County, you see, Orange County, we're close to Disney, we're Orange County is a vacation destination, whether you want to realize it or not. So you have to do things entertainment wise for that focus. So you have a lot of the tribute bands and that stuff based in Orange County. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. People like that. They're comfortable. They know what they're going to go out and experience. But as you get older, you're going to be sticking with what you grew up on, in a sense. So I think as you get older, you're not opening the door as much. You're not exposing yourself to what is newer at that time. So I think that's where, if you see any kind of separation, I think it's just it's generational in a sense, because I'm comfortable with what this is my comfort zone, and I'm really not going to go too far outside of it, which is a lot of people's thinking. And myself personally, yeah, am I a bit like that? Yeah, but at the same time, I still love getting turned on to new fucking bands. Like from right here in our backyard. And anytime I get turned on to someone a new band, yeah, I do want to have them play again. But when I'm booking a show, I still have to be careful and aware of who am I putting with what, because I'm not going to put something that's hard rock with something that's extremely heavy. Part of the term, Cookie Monster style. It's not gonna jive. So maybe I'll take a newer band that's maybe won't be as abrasive to an older audience. So there's things we need to work that we do work with. And one of the things we work at with some of the places that we deal with, occasionally we'll have to get an original band a bit more exposure from the tribute scene, because that's predominant down here in Orange County. We'll put an original band in between two very good drawing tribute bands, gain that band exposure, and make sure everything blends well. So that way we're trying to open up the door for someone, another band, because I don't want to go to the days before cable TV where it was only channels 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11 and 13, and that's it. There's a lot of bands out there, and there's a lot of people out there. I'm sure there's more than one band for every person. So that's why, I do encourage people to go out, check out an original band, break out of your comfort zone. You actually might like it. Hey, if you don't, then at least you can say you tried, but yeah, you have to turn yourself on.
I'm just looking at it from a bigger picture standpoint, because those old bands are dying by the wayside right now.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And because we haven't replenished them, we as all of us, it takes all of us, just we as in the general scene, has not taken care of itself. So what you're left with is the tribute bands tributing old school style bands, not as many quote unquote original bands. And I think not, again, because there aren't as many all ages clubs anymore. So promoters have to cater to the older audience because of that too. So I think if we had more of that, that would probably play into, a part of how of correcting this whole scene, and taking a chance on newer bands, but putting some old school style bands in there as well.
Yeah, and I just think it's, people just in their comfort zone. And if I'm trying to force something on you, the more I try to force something on you, the more you're going to push back. And you're going to push a little harder and a little louder than I came to you with it. And I just think younger generations are less tolerant due to the fact that they're living with their cell phones in their hand. So they instant gratification at the touch of, just like this, so I don't think even the younger generation has even that much more of an attention span. I don't think they're going to cling on to something as long as older generations, because okay, they're gone.
See, I disagree with that. I think everybody has been affected by that, older and newer, because just from me even doing this the documentary, if going back to that, is I've had people say, when's the DVD coming out? When's this coming out? Where can I stream it? It's like, you can't. You got to come old school style. You got to come out and see it, because it's not going to be released for like, the next year or whatever. So if you want to see it, this is
the premiere.
But people don't understand that. They just, because it's been instant gratification all the time, and with something like this that's very special, people just don't understand it. And I get it on some level, but it's just interesting to see it's older folks and newer folks that are kind of affected by the instant gratification.
Yeah.
So I would make an argument that everybody is affected by it.
Oh yeah, I think.
But because the newer generation doesn't have the nostalgia, and the older generation does, that might play a bigger part into, the tribute thing, and I don't think it has to do with the attention thing. I just it just has to do with nostalgia. Nostalgia is fucking huge.
Well, could more or less blame it on the internet. Well, it's because I don't think as many people go out as much, because if I want, back in the day before the internet, to find out about a band, it was either from a venue, telephone pole, a bulletin board somewhere, or Stepping Out magazine back in the day, or whatever it was. But you had to get off your ass. It wasn't, you had to actually go somewhere. It wasn't, right in front of you. So people can preview things more frequently now. Oh, someone's going live at your show. You know what? Why go to the show? You're broadcasting it live. Oh, so I'm going to save myself from going out, spending the money there, a couple drinks, whatever. I think it's sometimes a little bit harder to get the younger generation out, and just due to that fact, I don't think there's as much social interaction in person.
That's done on purpose.
Yeah,
that is literally just done on purpose to devalue society and destroy it.
Oh,
it's all about that.
Yeah,
that's a different topic for a different day. But it's clear as day as far as I'm concerned why it's happening. It's just all done on purpose. So, but getting back to the music realm, it does affect it tremendously, just like every other industry. But I've noticed that the film industry is a community, and so that's where I was kind of segueing into it. The differences between the music industry and the film industry, I've noticed just a 180. But it's amazing, dude. But at least I want to educate people on that.
But from at least what I see, at least at our shows, and for the highest percentage, and I'm talking over 95%, put it like in the A+ rating. It might it's not 100%. No, not at all. But the percentage of assholes, douchebags, or that I've ever had to deal with, and that's just I'm talking of band members or people that attend the shows or things that have happened. I'd have a problem counting it, on two hands with it all over these years. I mean, it's that minimal. I see community at most point, is actually great. I mean, if you talk to a lot of metalheads, I personally think metalheads are probably one of the tightest communities compared to like whatever other kind of music community there is. Like, I don't know if there's a hip hop community, rap community, country community, or whatever, but you go to shows and people are very tight.
I will agree with that, but there's also plenty of ego to go along with it too, which hinders other people, new people, from coming in, bringing new people, new blood into our scene. Again, it's one of the aspects too, which is why I asked you the question of something we can work on. I feel that is a definitely a thing, a small thing that we could change to turn it into this big community. That would be fucking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
just working together, no matter what. You might not like this band or this style, but it's okay to support that, especially if they're, good human beings.
yeah.
And again, it's like I think that's one thing we could change for the better of the metal scene. Would you agree, or is
Yeah.
this?
I just don't see much of it. I personally just do not see much of it. And even like with the bands that are a generation or two younger than I am that we booked, and that kind of stuff. I actually have had no problems. I actually got to think that some of the younger generation bands are actually, they're very thankful. They're they're on time. There's probably have less complaints, or usually less stuff to deal with. Like any kind of drama, headache type of stuff. They're very thankful. What time, where, and that kind of stuff. And yeah.
Do you think it's still important for a band to have a legacy for themselves and keep making records instead of playing all the time in the long run? Because I don't see many bands doing album, consistently. Like I see maybe one or two albums from a band, but most bands don't make it to 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and so on and so forth that are new. I don't know if I'm wrong on this
No, you're right. And especially like over that COVID. I am a major malfunction.
Okay.
I am a major malfunction.
Let's see if that works. Okay. Yeah, small. It's what happens when we do things live.
Yeah.
It's just part of the game.
No, but what you were saying, well, I think during the whole COVID time, around 2020, that whole
Yeah, I call it the pandemic, but that's just my opinion.
Well, during the pandemic, took a lot of bands out. It definitely did. Now, but you are correct. I've seen a lot of bands, that are no longer around anymore. I have tons of T-shirts of them, but there are not as many, or like yeah, I do get bummed out when you hear like a band breaks up, or like, I was hoping to get more from them, but yeah, you don't see that as much. I mean, Ninth Circle is a good example of a band that's been hanging around, putting out album after album. They've actually gotten a few awards, from the Bay Area, recently, and that kind of stuff. And it's great that they've been getting acknowledged. Frank and Dennis are, some great guys, and I have nothing but love for those guys, in that band. I would still like to see more from I was bummed when hearing of Eric no longer being in Void Vader. That kind of stinks. But I know they're still together, but you lose a connection. But even like Ironaut, I was sad to see them go.
I want Ironaut to get back together. I think that'd be fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I always loved Ironaut.
Ironaut's song "Yellow King." That was my the first, I think it's like almost 50 something seconds long is like the intro before the lyrics come in. That was like my intro music going into my radio show. So like, it was Mike C from the House Metal Radio Show, and you had everything like scripted out perfect, like up until where the lyrics would come in. But great fucking song, great fucking music. But yeah, I would love to see them do something again. But aside from Nine Circle, Void Vader, Trap Maker is another band putting out some great music. Really dig them. Hopefully they're going to be putting out some more soon. Through the Oculus is another great band. Really digging. High desert area, really heavy. They got some festivals lined up down in Mexico coming up towards the end of the year. Great band. Definitely want to check them out. But there's so many other bands that have fallen by the wayside. Stonebreed is a band that they put out a couple CDs. They're more on the hard rock side. They've had a bunch of lineup changes. They're out of Hollywood. Probably one of the longest mainstays up there. For at least the last decade. But Carlos keeps it rolling. It's good to see someone holds on to the name and still wants to put out music. But unfortunately, I could look at a bunch of CDs and like, these guys aren't around any longer. You get bummed out.
Well, I feel that most bands don't put in the work continuously. Whether they lose members or not, you still have to keep the train rolling. And
Brain
I don't.
That
would, I mean, that's a whole shame.
Yeah.
That's a self-inflicted one. I would say that's more self-inflicted, because they, people told them what was going to happen, and it's unfortunate, but that Indoctrinator album is fucking amazing.
Yeah. Oh, and
I love Joey's vocals like tremendously on that album.
Oh, and what was the first one? Fucking Do Your Worst.
Yeah, that was no, that was the demo, or wasn't it like a demo?
Yeah, but that demo was great though. Oh, I still got a version of that somewhere. Yeah, that's
sure. Well, how did they particularly come on your radar?
I think one of the guys in the band contacted us about doing a show at one point, or we might have saw a flyer with their name on it on one of the social media things and hit them up. And heck, great. The twins, oh my God, great fucking guys. We used to laugh our asses off. I had a good time with Joey, and I think it was Josh, back in the day. But now these guys, they did a show. It was actually, we did a house metal show. Technically, the headliner was Cage. It was Cage, Anger is Art, Brain Dead, Rogue Stallion, and I forget who else opened up that night. But it was technically Brain Dead's CD release show. They brought almost, like, when the tickets came back, this is the House Blues right up on Sunset. They had almost like 300 tickets. Like, after they were done, that place almost emptied out. I mean, for Anger is Art and Cage, there was barely anybody in there. Like, everyone was there to see Brain Dead. They tore the fucking place up. It was great. And then right after that, place was like, Ed and I were shocked. Where the hell did everyone go? Like, it was their CD release party,
I'll never forget right after Joey, was no longer in the band.
Yeah.
And him joining Thrown into Exile
at
the time, and them playing, I think it was the Regent out in LA, and Brain Dead opening for Thrown into Exile. That blew my mind, just because I was there watching it happen or whatever. And there's no ill will. I'm not trying to talk bad or by any stretch of the imagination. That was just weird. Yeah,
that was a weird circumstance.
Yes. Just as a fan and as a fellow musician that's got the opportunity to tour with them and play many shows and just have some great fucking times,
Oh yeah.
It was kind of sad. It just because I knew, that their chemistry was amazing on stage. Joey is absolutely one of my favorite frontmen in this whole scene, period. Yeah. And doesn't get enough credit. You want to talk about a guy that doesn't get enough credit.
And the twins those guys are hysterical. Just those two together, like just even conversation wise, are great.
And Josh is a phenomenal drummer.
Yes.
And just a great human being too. We had some great times on the road and some funny fucking stories.
Yeah, Josh, very, very good quality guy.
I have a story if you want to just have some fun here.
Yeah.
We were playing in Idaho, at the place called the Shredder.
Okay.
It's a very famous club in Boise, Idaho, and I think we got booked last minute there or something. And Jason Tyler got to we were so thankful for him because he helped us book the tour, and he was amazing. And we play the show, and I can't remember. I think Big Cat, our guitar player, was having technical difficulties, and so it was kind of some dead space there. We were just I was getting just water, and I fucking hear I think it was Joey. He's going, "Tell us a joke," and I immediately, I don't know why I said it. It's funny looking back. I just blurted out, "Well, I wish I could, but Brain Dead already played already." So, and
burn.
was kind of laughing. I was like, yes, I got it.
Oh, bang.
But that was just some stupid shit that we would do on the road. Just bust each other's balls.
Oh yeah, that's what you have to do to just keep it loose. But we even Ed and I shot their video that they did for High Value Target.
Okay, the single for the Indoctrinator record.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Hanging with those guys. Ed was actually managing them for a while. He got credit on their CD and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was another great band. Miss those guys, a lot. Definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a shame when great bands, either they make dumb decisions or they never get the opportunities to get to the next level. Such as I would argue, such as Heretic.
Yes.
And just we're always destined to never make it to that next level for whatever reason. Outside forces, management, record labels, this, that, and the other. I mean, it goes on just for being in a band.
Oh yeah, very, very difficult. And that's one thing to even be said with the internet. Because all of a sudden, every band got exposed to everybody. Now, as evil as record companies are, and that with taking the biggest chunk of the proceeds and everything, unless you kind of found a band, you weren't getting exposed. There was no real big exposure, unless you were one of these fortunate bands that could constantly sell out, the local clubs, where all of a sudden, where record companies start having to take attention, to different bands. And yeah, internet, it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, but there's not even as many huge bands as were, and as these bands get older and pass on and no longer can do it.
Well, I don't even see a community of people my age here locally speaking. I don't see other people doing what we're doing here today. I don't see people my age doing radio stuff, being a documentarian and documenting things. And I just don't see a lot of that, dude. We have to create it for the betterment of the metal scene.
And that's true. And I think, I don't know why that is. Did it for, between doing the stuff with Bang Ahead Mike and Ed, and then doing, the stuff with the radio station for those years. Yeah, it's a labor of love. It truly is. It's a labor of love. And if anyone thinks, that making any money off of this, where you're higher than I am, and I don't think people value as much where they want to do. I mean, I wish I honestly had more time to do these things. I'm fortunate. We live, I'm 15 minutes from you, 15, 20 minutes. So like have an opportunity to do this, jumping all over it.
And I just wish that it was out there more so. And maybe it is. Maybe I'm just like super, just misinformed.
Or not getting exposed to the right thing or something. I know what you mean.
It's just what it is kind of thing. And I wish, again, we used to have some great stuff. Like I'm going to name some examples. And again, if you remember, I'm great. If you don't, great. We had a thing called Metal Load. It was Liz Gore. She now does Lone Wolf Productions. She's a photographer. It was her and Roxy and Lore. They would go out and interview bands and like support them, and that was like the closest that I saw to like a community. They weren't playing in a band, but they were still helping what was documented here locally before any of us were. That was huge. I would give credit to Benny the Breeze, my co-host on he was doing radio out of KTSDFMAnaheim.com back 2012, 13, 14 era.
I was gonna say that name rings a
I got the opportunity to be the co-host, bring bands in and document them and interview them. We were the only people doing this kind of stuff. It's just a shame though that there's not many of them left.
Yeah.
Those companies, there's production people that don't play in bands giving back to a community just for the hell of it. I mean, yes, you got Andy Ford, which fucking amazing, with Razor Radio. He's still doing his thing, and we just need people like that.
Yeah.
We need more people like that. We had a thing called Hellbound Radio.
I remember how long ago was that? I do remember that, but
I would say 2015, 16, 17, 18 era.
Okay.
And again, that was my buddy Jay was doing it with a couple buddies just out of their garage. It was fucking awesome just to get out of the house, go hang with my friends, talk metal. Wasn't on my own show.
Yeah.
And so it'd be nice if other people did that.
Yeah. What was cool about fortunate enough with doing C4OC Radio for those years, and especially
C4OC Radio too.
Especially because I was on there like pretty religiously pretty much it was like same week, same bat time, same bat channel type of shit. So I figured if I could be consistent with it, that would help people to remember. But when I was going about booking bands, like just say for example, if I have a show coming up this Saturday,
mm-hmm.
and I want to get people turned on to who's ever going to be coming on, I was going to try to have some of those bands, or at least a band member from each band, if possible, to come on, at least do a little interview with them if we had their music, play a song or two, that type of thing. But it was cool. We're giving all the bands in the area, exposure and that type of thing, and it definitely did a lot of good. Always noticed that a lot of the bands would mention after doing like a show with us, all of a sudden like their followers, whatever social media account they were getting, all of a sudden that would take a noticeable jump, stuff like that. So that was always good to hear. Then finally, hey, I'm sending out merch to people in different countries, that type of thing. You hear them mentioning, but hearing that their music is now getting out to a bigger audience than as opposed to the person who's going to be showing up their show here in town, like, oh, you mentioned like Void Vader. a couple years ago, they were going on a tour, and they were, have a have a Facebook friend that's in Massachusetts. They were playing in Massachusetts. She drove to go see them, and she heard of them, needless to say, from the show. But it's cool that here's someone on the other side of the country getting turned on to someone, and even had they're playing through Texas and Arizona on that same tour. Other people that we know went out, well, listeners of the radio station at that time went out to go see them, on that tour, and they were like, "Holy shit!" People heard us. You heard us on that radio station. You came out to our show because you got turned. They were like, "Oh wow, that's really cool." So it's good to see that happen. I really wish more people would be like, with what you're doing, or what, Denny's doing with C4OC Radio, because more bands need more exposure, and it's hard to get exposed.
Not only that, there's just too many great bands and not enough people documenting them.
Yeah.
That was my whole frustration with everything. And I don't want any credit. I'm not looking for credit. I just would love us to get the proper exposure that I feel we deserve, just as a metal scene. So it's very frustrating for me.
Now, another band back from that era, talking about like with Heretic, Ruthless. They still up and running. They're actually, I think, playing a show this upcoming weekend. But here's another band that's been around, close to 40 years. And what's great with bands like Heretic and Ruthless, and it's a shame that that this crime happens inside the United States, but they get invited. Bands like Heretic, Ruthless get invited to play on these, festivals, other countries during the summer. And when they do have the opportunity to do so, they do it. But it's great that they get out and get that exposure in other countries, but they can't get it here, or it doesn't happen here.
Well, they're not appreciated here. They're appreciated everywhere else. They're appreciated. I think it's because they're in our own backyard. Bands such as the two that you're naming, and there are plenty more.
Oh yeah.
But because they're in their backyard, it's like, oh, I can go see them anytime. That's the whole thing. So when you're in a band, it's a very imperative that you don't play as many live shows in your local area. Like, you go outside, make the people want to see you play.
Yeah.
Make the people come to you, not the other way around. So you're starting to see like residencies and
yes,
bands playing, like Aerosmith did the Vegas thing, and people had to come out to see them. And that's unfortunately, it is what it is. If you want to go see those particular bands and local bands, it's imperative that we don't play all the time. It's imperative we do one show, every 6 months or a year.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of bands don't think that way. You mentioned earlier about radius and that type of thing. We've seen bands like, say, they're going on their summer tour, okay? Now, and you're mentioning with residencies. I'm not even going to mention band name or anything, but it was, they had a whole bunch of dates within like a 3 or 4 week period, including a residency like in a local venue, but everything was in like the same county at the usual places they normally play. It's like, mentions like 6 states, 4 of them are at the same venue on that same night of the week. It's like, oh, that's our tour. And a show here and a show there at just on the other end of the county, but still, okay, now you're just saturating yourself,
Right. And again, I get that what we're talking about might be like, might be redundant, to where we may have talked about the same issue again and again and again on the show. it's so prevalent that people need to be aware and make smarter decisions on where they play, who to support, when to support them. And it's always like, do we want a community? Do we want a metal scene anymore? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm just a guy on a microphone making records and doing my best to just do what I do here. And we're making albums. We're making a new one as we speak here. We're not going to play a heck of a lot. If you get the opportunity to see us,
Get your ass out.
You might want to go, see us if you support the band and want to see us succeed. It's imperative that you take advantage of it when bands that are your favorite, doesn't have to be Madras, any band that you're into, if they're playing, they have a new record out, or you've never seen them before, go to the show, and support, because you never know when you're going to see that particular lineup again, or that particular album ever again, especially if
or what special guest might show up, or shit like that. And
it's just, people don't think that way. People think that, oh, okay, they'll be back around.
Yeah, next time. Yeah, and I got burnt. I've been burnt on that. It's like, wanted to see a particular artist, then all of a sudden artist passes away, and you're like, I was hoping to see them one last time,
or one time at all.
Yeah.
But perfect example, they play here a lot, and I've never seen them. I went to see Cheap Trick just this past Monday.
Oh shit.
They were amazing.
Robin Zander as the voice of God. Are you kidding?
I can't believe he sounds that great at 70.
Dude's amazing. At 70.
But it's imperative, again, perfect example of a band. They're older. It kind of goes with what we're saying here. But it's imperative that I, as a fan, went to go see them at least once. I wanted to see Cheap Trick at least once. I want to go every time now because I just love the songs, and
they're
amazing.
Great. Oh, I know
there are local bands too that I do that as well with. It's not, you don't have to be a band from the 70s and 80s for me to do that with,
Oh, I know what you mean, like even one particular band that I do try to see when they do come around is a band called Unto Others. They used to be called Idle Hands before that. I just happen to like, my son actually turned me on to them.
Yeah, Man is an amazing record.
Yeah.
That first Idle Hands or / Onto Others.
Oh, yeah. And even their last one's fucking great.
It's amazing. So, Strength is a great record too.
But now I would have gone to see him if Void Vader was an opening for him. I saw they were performing locally. They were at the Constellation Room, and good friends with the guy, Sam, Eric, and everyone. So like, go check him out. Bring my son with me, and he goes, "Oh, Unto Others. Oh, you're gonna really like them, Dad."
They're amazing.
So I only had heard of them, So friggin' Void Vader comes on, put on a great performance. Forget who was on the second. Then Unto Others came on, and another band right from the start. So they opened up with one of the track off the new one called Heroin. I opened with that, and it's a great song right from the start. And I was like, oh yeah, and dug the whole fucking show. But ever since then, saw him perform with Candlemass even a couple weeks, a couple months ago down at 1720 up in LA. But next time they come around, I definitely going to check them out again.
And again, people don't think that way. They don't think long term, I would say, where I saw him on that tour, blah 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 blah, whatever album it is. And so that's my point. I just wanted to get some insight, from a business perspective too, because you are a promoter. You do have some knowledge that I particularly, as an artist, does not possess here. But one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you is, how do you primarily book a show, meaning because there's been this, I hate when this happens. I hate when there's a show and there's like 9 bands on the bill. Starts at 7. Last band doesn't go on even if it's 2 stages. It drives me fucking nuts. How do you as a promoter not say, okay, if I put 3 bands, wouldn't work, would it? Because of the bar situation? How does that work?
Okay, if it's local bands, the venue, specifically the main place, I don't want to mention that name because it's only one person.
Any venue, right?
Well, different venues, different rules, pretty much. Okay, the main place we do stuff at, if it's going to be local artists, original bands, she wants at least 8 or 9 bands. She wants to start that show, at 6 o'clock. Because now what happens is, the reason why she wants that, okay, 2 stages, things supposed to go like this, right? But at the same time, I got 8 bands. Let's say 8 bands. There's 4 to 5 people in each band, right? You gotta hope, pray, keep your fingers crossed, and all that type of shit. Everyone's schedule is going to work out fine, okay? And nothing, especially, is going to happen that day, night of the show, whatever. Because shit happens, shit drops like flies. Give you a perfect example. That birthday show with Heretic. I had that show booked 6 months in advance. That freaking lineup. It then started at the beginning of the month. The main band that I had as a headliner canceled. Okay, so that's one. The week of the show, 2 or 3 days before the show, another band member had an injury, can't perform, whatever. And that's just 2 or 3 days before the show. Now I got to try to find replacement band for that band. Fortunately enough, within less than 48 hours, got a band, got them confirmed. New flyer invitation, all that kind of bullshit's going up, blah, blah, blah. Day before the show, 11 o'clock that fucking Friday morning, I get a call from another band. Oh, band members in the fucking hospital. They can't perform. So, ended up getting, don't ask me how, between help from one of the other band members, able to find a band, get that taken care of. But now I have to redo the lineup a bit. And all of a sudden, I've been promoting this thing for 6 months. I got all these bands. Now all of a sudden, in less than a month, first one band is no longer on the bill. And 72 hours before the show, 2 of the bands that are on there are no longer on there, and got these other 2 bands. We had people come up, what band are you here for? Oh, they're not playing tonight. Okay, bye. Didn't want to come to see the show because their band that they wanted to see was not performing. So as a booker and promoter, at times, you can understand what she's saying, because all of a sudden could have gone from originally having 7 bands to 4 like that. And then all of a sudden you're stuck with, finger fucking your fart hole, and that's about it.
So is it like,
it's insurance policy?
Okay, so if you book, I'm going to say 8 bands, right? Let's say 4 of them drop. You can't find anybody. The day of the show comes, you only have 4 bands. Are you telling me the show will not happen?
It'll go on. It's going to start. It's going to start later, and hope you got a lot of fucking material too, because your set's going to get longer. Because needless to say, the more bands you have, sometimes the smaller sets. We know what bands are going to draw more than other bands. Those bands are going to get more of a prime slot. They're going to get a better slot and more playing time, because I keep a score sheet from every show we have done. So I can go back, we had this many people. I'm like, bullshit. Your guest list was twice as many people and then band members. Okay, so no, you didn't have what you think you had. Okay, remember that. Those are things you have to be the unfortunate reminder of. But some bands are smart, like you mentioned. They won't do as many shows, or they at least make sure it's 6 weeks to 8 weeks apart, so they're not overexposing themselves. And some bands are smart, and they might even be more selective on where they're playing or who they're playing with.
How impactful does having the right flyer play into bringing people to a show? Because I've seen some terrible flyers with shows. I'm not saying yours particularly. I'm saying with, just being in the scene a long time. I've seen flyers where I'm like, that doesn't look too appealing on how it's like presented. And I'm just curious have you noticed anything when it comes to like shitty flyers? Permitting people from coming out?
And not to mention freaking other promoters or what other shit goes down. And okay, and if you are asking, if I come to you for advice,
please don't.
Okay, because I value your opinion. You're doing what I'm trying to do, and I hope to have similar success as you. Okay, I ask you, you give me your advice. I decide not to take your advice, and I go ahead with my initial plan, and I have the same result as I previously had, and I'm not happy about that. I then ask you again for your advice, and you tell me the same thing again, and I don't take your advice, and I have the same result. There are people that we do things for and ask us for advice, and they choose not to do, and they still have the same results.
You know what that's called? Definition of insanity.
Oh yeah. Now, if I had a big artist coming through where I'm putting a lot of money into the show, and it just happens to be my birthday, for example, like on my birthday thing, just say, for example, I mentioned Heretic performing with this and that. So on top, you just see that. But I'm mentioning the bands. I don't mention my birthday. It might be mentioned on the flyer, but the band is whoever the band's, the entertainment is the highlight. You got to put that. Oh, it's my birthday show at this day. Fuck you. Who cares? Who the fuck's playing? Especially if you're dropping a few grand on something and you keep doing the same thing over and over, and you're paying people ahead of time, and I'm hoping and believing, I'm going to pay you a lot of money to perform. I want you to promote the show. No one knows your band better than you do. Pump the fuck out of it. Okay? I already got paid.
Oh.
Okay.
So there's no incentive to promote once you get.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I've paid bands that don't promote what they do. I haven't promoted it properly because I'm not mentioning that there's this big national act that I'm paying $3 to $5 grand on. I'm not even mentioning that. You're not even reading that. You're reading it's my birthday or it's my anniversary or whatever the fuck it is. And if you kept on losing a lot of money every time you put on a show, unless you got a lot of fucking money and you're having a good time having a party that you're just throwing money away, I hope you're happy with that. I hope your wife's happy with that. And hopefully your retirement fund isn't going out the door.
But how does having a good flyer either impact that positively or negatively? Because again, I've seen some terrible flyers where it didn't even look appealing. And maybe a band caught my eye
wording is important. Okay, the wording is important. the essential information's got to be there from the fucking get-go. If I have to read or look at that flyer, and if I have to question any one thing, wrong answer. I'm already turned off. So yes, it does. In my personal opinion, yes, it does play a factor. But also, you still this aside just from that, if you got to promote the fuck out, you could have the greatest fucking flyer in the world, but if no one can see it, who cares? You know, we try to make it clear to the bands, you know, push the event. You're playing. We're going to push the event too. Now, hey, we early in our day, we were told there might have been a shitty flyer or two, or we didn't like where our placement was, or maybe something didn't stand out. Maybe the address, the date wasn't clear enough. But yeah, all those little things can affect it because there's a Karen somewhere.
Is there a new way of promoting shows in 2023? Just because I don't really know.
Do the paid advertising. It do the paid advertising, do the paid advertising, do the paid advertising. It does make a difference. Every time we've done that, it has made a difference. You want to get an amazing turnout for your event? Like, put it this way, even like we've had our bigger shows, House Metal, yeah, we've done shit on, aside from paying for it on Facebook and Instagram. Also, what's one other big metal website we've done paid advertising on there and that kind of shit, and yeah, and it works. It definitely works. You're definitely exposing your work to a hell of a lot more people, and it does get a great reaction.
Do you think podcasts and radio stuff, does that still play a part in how it is, depending on what platform it's on?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Oh, definitely. Oh, and
do you think
I personally think the more you can do to promote your band, the better, as long as you just do it the right way.
Do you think just even putting out the energy comes back? I think even just, again, just trying to go on all these shows, or paying to put it into a magazine, or it all plays a part in people discovering that said show, or that said band, or that said album, or
I can't say enough good things about paying for advertising, because you will get results. Needless to say, the more you put out there, the more you pay, the bigger the results you are going to have. No doubt about it.
I like it. Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on and hanging with me for a few.
In the tan cave, man.
You are always welcome back here. I always appreciate our discussions and learning a little bit more about, especially the business side of things when it comes to the music business.
Okay, now I know bookers and promoters get, as bands look at bookers and promoters as dirtbags, and we're scum of the earth. Okay. Now, I just at least want to just stating this for us as a House of Metal. Now, people would ask, if it's a normal show, let's call it locals. No, we don't do pay to play. But just say, for example, if someone was to ask that, we'll say no, but we will offer you something. Like, just say, if you were to give us $100, we're going to give you $250 worth in tickets. That's going to take care of your guest list. Anything else you make after that, that's all yours. So that's only if bands ask. We don't even push that. Now, if it came to like a national act coming around where we do ask whatever amount is on the ticket, we tell bands, we're going to ask bands, to sell tickets. But there's a margin. We need X amount per ticket. it's Neil say it's cheaper than face value or what the band's going to sell it online for. So, say it could be $5-10 difference. Whatever you sell at that difference, that's yours.
So are you telling me there still is pay to play?
Some I shouldn't say some places, some promoters, you have to give them that money up front. We don't do that. So, and
that seems weird because you're booking a band. So the band is sent. I never got the pay to play thing from this standpoint as you're paying. So the band is paying in order to perform. It's weird that you're renting out a band, but the band is paying you instead of, because tribute bands get paid, like they,
oh yeah,
it's a complete opposite of
it's
fucking weird.
It is so fucked up, but that's like a whole beyond podcast on itself, because there's a lot of original artists. There is envy, hate. Other people, no problem with it. And it's unfortunate, and that's the comfort zone.
So what is the compromise with maybe not doing pay to play, but also the band promoting the shit out of? Because I think if the band promoted the shit out of it and brought people, that would completely disband pay to play.
Yeah. But you would be surprised. Let's call it even like the older national acts, bands that are playing the clubs, that type of thing, not the larger venues, stadiums, or even arenas for that matter. Most of those bands cannot draw enough people on their own to warrant their own price tag. And that's being 100% honest with you. There's probably been only shit. Aside from our top shows, there's a couple artists we know we don't even have to ask bands to open up for, because we know this said artist is going to draw it on their own, and we just know those particular nights are going to work. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of, and I hate to say, but that there are these bands people still come out and want to go and experience, but they can't pay their own price tag, and that is it's disheartening, because these are bands that you were fans of growing up, and hey man, that was cool. I got to see you. I watched you on MTV back in the '80s on Headbangers Ball and that kind of stuff, and oh, you're the only original member and whatever. But yeah, and those things stink.
Yeah.
But the nostalgia bit, and oddly enough, there are some bands that will only do pay to play shows because they know it's a big artist and they're going to be in front of more people. But there are those bands that only do pay to play.
Interesting. Well, Mike, pleasure, my friend. I always appreciate a moment
of time.
Dude,
it's definitely my pleasure. Hopefully we can get to, I'm going to be seeing you mighty soon. I'm definitely going to be coming to the Heretic premiere. I'm looking forward to that. Was it September 15th, was it?
Yeah, September 15th. Thanks for the segue. I set up that softball pitch and let me hit a home run here. Yeah, it's September 15th. We have limited tickets. I was not expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. I was not expecting
the response.
The response, and it to be like almost sold out in a course of a fucking week. I just was not prepared for it. And I was prepared for like, okay, like maybe we'll sell, bring 40 to 50. It's like, no, now we're bringing this much to this much. It's like, okay, I need to kind of plan for it, and hopefully it's always one of these things where I know I don't have to defend the documentary because I'll let it speak for itself there. It's just I want people to like it. I want people to enjoy and learn something new about the band, and I hope you guys do.
And putting all the pieces of it, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, it was amazing to get the opportunity to do that, and don't worry, it will be on DVD. But everybody asking me, will it be on DVD? Yes, it will eventually. I'm in talks with. Can't discuss that much stuff publicly. Obviously, I've told you some stuff behind the scenes, and we'll just leave it there. But everybody else asking me for links to watch the movie, it's a big fat no for me right now.
I haven't even gotten a glimpse of it.
But I hope to see you guys out there. Seriously, this is like kind of like a once in a lifetime thing, I would say. It might only
it's huge. It's huge.
It might only happen once. I don't know.
It's gonna happen more.
It's the Starlight Cinemas in Lakewood, California, September 15th, 7 to 9. I will leave a link to to get your tickets if you guys are interested in supporting not only a great group of guys, but
a great band,
great history.
Yeah, the history,
and
history.
I love that. I just love it.
Yeah.
So, I was hoping next time we come on, hopefully we can discuss kind of what makes a great documentary in your opinion. But we'll just leave it there for now. And I hope to see you guys out there. And where can people find anything Mike C related? And what are you doing now primarily?
Primarily House of Metal shows and being a dad. But that's my main things, at least down here in Orange County.
Got a nice tone to it.
But I did recently venture business up with Mr. Al Bane for Leather, opening a store. It's actually open right now. We haven't had a grand opening yet right now, but it's at 7449 Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, California. It's like four doors down from that huge Guitar Center on the Sunset Strip there, right across from Neely Guitars and what Sam Ash is right down there also. Al Bane has been the man for leather for the past 40 years throughout, the whole heavy metal thing, everything that you saw on the LA Invasion, all those bands coming out. I'll bet 99% of them had some form of Al Bane for leather product on them at least once, whether you rented it from, whether you're playing, the Whiskey, the Troubadour, any of those great places. Ventured up with him. He's got a great clientele, great products, custom stuff out the yin yang. Once we're getting ready once I know when the grand opening is going to let that be known, but technically open for business right now. Get yourself a guitar strap and tell him Mike C from the House of Metal sent you, and Mr. Al, hey, he doesn't know you, but he's going to do something for you.
Awesome. Well, for another episode, I want to thank Mr. Mike C of the House of Metal and C4OC Radio. I just have to get a plug.
Oh, yes. Them. 7 years, Denny. Way to go, motherfucker.
Yeah. Big shout out to Denny Ray here. And just for another episode of Poppitt's Corner, guys, we're out of here.
Peace.
Cheers.